You ever work for a company that you just really hate? Mayhem, released in 2017, criticizes corporate America in quite possibly the most satisfying way possible for any disgruntled employees in the audience, through an inhibition-eliminating contagion plotline with very bloody consequences. In this essay, I'm gonna break down the movie's stance on everything wrong with corporate culture, as well as its philosophy about the nature of humanity. Now, I have exactly 5 really brief disclaimers before we start. 1, footage used over the course of this video is included for purposes of commentary and criticism and therefore falls under fair use. 2, your boy is still not sponsored, so I have peppered in a couple fake ads again just for funsies. 3, this movie is very much structured like a video game. So much so that the MacGuffins that our protagonists seek out are literally labeled using numbered levels. And I'm just including that now because explaining it later on would really disrupt the flow of the analysis, but like it is one of the things that makes the movie so engaging, so I had to include it. 4, hot take, guys, violence is bad. The reason I can enjoy this carnage so much is because I'm living vicariously in a way that doesn't actually harm anyone. So please, don't actually murder your bosses. Just because I talk about the events of the movie with glee does not mean I want anybody to follow suit. Plus, everyone knows psychological warfare is the real way to get revenge. 5th and final, I feel the need to clarify some terms and concepts I'll be referencing because I want everybody to be on the exact same page. Otherwise, I have a feeling my comment section will be full of people who are angry about things that I did not say. For starters, when I reference corporate America, corporate culture, corporate class, I am talking about your classic desk jobs in big office buildings. When I say working class, I'm referring to factory jobs, teachers, food service, customer service. If they're doing any sort of manual labor, they're probably included. So when I separate the two, I'm referencing the type of labor that they're paid to do, not necessarily their actual pay. Skilled trade workers can make bank, but in this particular essay, because I'm separating things by labor, a celebrity plumber who charges redonkulously high rates would still fall under working class. And with that, let's get to the movie. We open with an explanation of the ID7 virus. Symptoms include a singular bloodshot and itchy eye, and a total loss of self-control. Basically, if your lizard brain thinks something will feel good, your frontal lobe no longer cares enough to stop you, no matter how violent, embarrassing, or scandalous that impulse may be. Luckily, the CDC has developed a neutralizing agent that stops symptoms about 8 hours after it's deployed, and the virus itself is not deadly. Our protagonist, Derek, played by Steven Yeun, is a shiny new lawyer who successfully argued in court that people cannot be legally held liable for actions they committed while infected. Derek has only worked at his firm, Towers & Smythe, for about 6 months, and he already feels like it's draining the life out of him. Total aside, I think most law firms don't have an "and" in between partner names, so like I'm pretty sure that this should be Towers Smythe, but that's hard to say, and the movie calls it Towers and Smythe, so that's what I'm gonna go with. When Derek's sister calls and asks if he'll be able to attend her birthday party, he says he simply does not have the time. She asks if he would paint something for her in lieu of actually attending the party, but he says he doesn't have time for that either. I know that probably seems like a super insignificant detail right now, but put a pin in it because it will be coming back later. Derek goes to meet with Melanie, who claims she's another lawyer regarding a foreclosure she wants reversed or at the very least delayed. Melanie's played by Samara Weaving, who is a treasure and a horror icon. If you haven't seen Ready or Not, you need to. Anyways, Derek sniffs out that she's not an attorney pretty fast and declines to help. And this is where we first hear the line that basically acts as a thesis for this whole movie.
No one raindrop thinks it caused the flood.
Derek decides not to think critically about this at all and calls security to have her removed. So let's talk about that quote real quick. One of the criticisms that this movie has about corporate culture is that it allows for a sort of blame sharing. This idea of, it's not me doing this, it's the company. The company is the one doing harm, not me. So when the company gradually chips away at your moral compass by spreading that blame over hundreds, if not thousands of people, it's a lot easier to sleep at night when you've just evicted an entire apartment building or denied life-saving healthcare because of an insurance loophole. And that's just the lower level workers, right? The messengers, the ones carrying out the will of these larger systems of power. As for the ones who put those systems in place, we'll get to that in a bit. Derek gets word that he's about to get scapegoated for a massive screw up and goes to confront his accuser, Kara, also known as the Siren. She's got a reputation for always having her boss's ear and knowing exactly what to say to get her way. She's fabricated a bunch of documents that tie Derek to an account he's never had and a specific complaint that the firm absolutely biffed. With his head now on the chopping block, Derek and the Siren go to meet with John Towers, head of Towers & Smythe. He is desperate to save his job and also defend himself from these career-ending accusations that could even get him disbarred. On their way up, we get this fun exchange, which does end up being thematically relevant later.
You died when you drowned because Mommy left you in the bathtub while she went shopping for shoes. Don't worry, Daddy will make her pay.
Too bad Mommy outranks Daddy.
Mommy's a backstabbing bitch.
That's why Mommy outranks Daddy.
Ooh, Mommy is right. Hello, ma'am. When they arrive at his penthouse office, Towers offers us a visual aid to convey his perspective on the matter. And this is where we really get to see the siren in action.
Those soldiers' lives are in danger, sir.
You think they'll make it?
No, sir. The fuse is too short. It's too late to run.
And what do you think they should be doing instead?
May I?
So simple and yet so effective. This is our bomb. The fuse is already burning. So should we run like cowards and die?
We are brave, sir.
Derek attempts to further defend himself.
Who dropped the ball?
I hate pointing fingers, but may I suggest you check the annual work distribution sheet?
Someone cooked the fucking worksheet. Have you noticed that whenever there's a problem like this, it's almost always the same soldier involved? Because down in the trenches, we have all noticed.
And who would that be?
But does not exactly stick the landing.
Man.
Thank you, Derek. You can leave. Leave.
Now remember how I told you that Derek can paint but no longer has the time? This entire movie uses art as a metaphor for humanity. Not humanity in terms of like the global population, humanity meaning empathy, compassion, the ability to connect with your fellow man. Now we've already gotten to see Derek's rendition of the siren, for example. It's a visual representation of her personality and characterization. And in terms of technique, it's quite well developed. We get several of these paintings throughout the movie, offering us insight into what Derek feels about each of these characters. The art that Towers makes, on the other hand, is simply a tool that he uses to convey a goal. There is no love, there is no care, there is no feeling. Like I said, it's a visual aid, not a form of expression. So how he utilizes art strips it of its purpose and role, according to this movie, to further his own agenda. And we get another glimpse at the movie's opinions about the nature of corporate culture in the siren's response and the exchange that follows. Towers does not care that Derek is objectively correct. He doesn't even care that Kara fucked up. He cares about having his ego stroked and protecting the employee who knows how to play the game. He doesn't protect Derek from being scapegoated because he's innocent. Instead, he protects the siren for being smart enough to scapegoat him in the first place to cover her own ass. Derek goes to vent to his work bestie Ewan, who is trying to meditate in his office. He explains what he's being blamed for, and Ewan lays out for us exactly how perfect the siren's plan was.
Since the promotion, you could possibly be in charge of a case that big, but not big enough to be untouchable. That's why she shows you you're the perfect fall guy.
The movie is careful not to give off the impression that Kara is completely incompetent. She is only incompetent with her literal job description, but that's not how you climb the ladder in corporate America anyways. In fact, being too good at your job can mean you become too valuable in your current role and therefore get perpetually passed up for promotions. The key isn't knowing how to do your job, it's knowing how to please your boss. Whether it's through flattery or a willingness to be a cutthroat Machiavellian snake, it's protecting that relationship with your boss that matters. This is not a meritocracy, it's hierarchical politics. This video was brought to you by Machiavellianism from Toxic Workplace Incorporated. Tired of being stuck at the bottom of the food chain because of that pesky moral compass? Try throwing it out the window! With Machiavellianism, you never have to worry about anyone besides yourself ever again. Why see others as your equals when you could use them as pawns instead? Screw up at work? Accuse your colleague of doing coke. It really is that easy. Thanks, Machiavellianism. Toxic Workplace Incorporated is not responsible for any physical, emotional, or reputational damages. Side effects include, but are not limited to, losing everyone who ever loved you, losing custody of your kids, looking like Elon Musk, and dying alone. Derek is sulking in his office when in walks Lester, aka the Reaper. He acts as a vehicle for the movie's opinions about human resources, which I wholeheartedly endorse. HR is not your friend. The purpose of it is to cover the company's ass because humans are the resource and HR helps them get away with using and abusing said resource. Their job is to make the problem go away. Sometimes that looks like a mediated discussion. Other times it looks like quietly transferring victims of sexual harassment. Sometimes it's pretending to punish those in power with their little wrist slaps. But every once in a while it is going after somebody in power to protect the company as a whole. Regardless, the amorphous entity that is the company will always come first, even if it's the one doing harm. And the humans are the livestock to be kept in line so that the entity can make its money. In Derek's case, HR's attempt to make the problem go away is a severance package of a dizzyingly high amount. The catch is that he also has to plead guilty to that mistake that could get him disbarred and sued. The Reaper, of course, could not possibly give less of a shit that signing that paper would literally ruin this man's life. And why would he?
I'm just the messenger, Derek.
So Derek understandably refuses and is escorted out by security. Outside, SWAT and the CDC arrive because traces of the ID7 virus have been detected inside the building. We see that symptoms are already starting, so they lock the place down for quarantine. And this is where I need to mention that some of the funniest parts in this entire movie happen in the background with the regular employees. And just like I did with Vicious Fun, I am intentionally leaving out a lot of the best clips from the movie so that even if you watch this video in full before seeing it, you'll still have a good time. Guys, please watch this fucking movie. It is delightful. Chaos erupts at the firm, which allows Derek to wriggle free from security and head to the elevator to go to the penthouse so he can talk to the executive suite, aka the Nine. Speaking of executives, let's check in with Towers and see how he's reacting to a contagion known to cause murders overtaking his entire staff.
What happens when 287 employees, average billing rates of $200 an hour, start working for 8 hours? I lose $500,000! Now crack your whips! Everybody goes back to work.
Again, humans are the resource. Back on the first floor, Ewan stops Derek and begs him to just let it go. He's worked there for years and tells Derek it is not worth the fight to stay. Problem is, Derek has already started to show symptoms and is therefore literally incapable of taking his friend's words into consideration. He slips away again and makes it to the elevator for his ride to the top, but is denied access and sent to the basement. There waiting for him is Colton, aka the Bull, who's described as
The boss's unofficial left hook.
why Towers needs a violent enforcer outside of this very specific situation? Who's to say? Regardless, the Bull beats the living hell out of Derek until Ewan arrives on a rescue mission. But this movie is a commentary on corporate America. The last thing you're supposed to do is actually try to help people, so sadly Ewan is punished for this transgression.
Ewan? I smell toast.
Derek is knocked out and wakes up to find Melanie, who is also showing symptoms and is less than happy to see him. Derek explains that he was just fired for something that wasn't his fault, and the two decide to work together to get their revenge on the people who screwed them both over. John Towers, who fired Derek, and Irene Smythe, who's responsible for the foreclosure that Melanie is trying to fight. Derek explains the legal precedent that means they won't be held liable for anything they do while they're infected, which prompts another really great line.
Just like any other day for you.
Again referencing that blame sharing, which makes it so much easier to ruin people's lives guilt-free. To kick off their little revenge spree, they put together a frankenphone from the defunct and broken equipment around them, which they used to make a friendly little phone call to Vandercorp, aka the company that was impacted by the siren's mistake.
Derek has alerted me to a certain document.
It analyzes the advisability of filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against one of Frank's ex-business associates.
It weighs the slim possibility of a positive financial outcome against the enormous potential litigation costs.
I believe you could have won the suit.
Then why did your advisors advise me against it?
Your advisors missed the deadline to file the motion?
Which Derek so eloquently summarizes as,
I believe they dropped the ball, sir. But then they also defecated on the ball.
And then sodomized the ball. Sorry.
LOL.
Towers once again sends his cronies downstairs for a smackdown, but Derek and Melanie are able to outsmart and overpower them. They know they have quite the battle in front of them, so they literally arm themselves with the tools of the working class and start the journey upward. First on the hit list is the Reaper, who has a level 2 clearance keycard. At first, he is not particularly helpful, barricading himself inside his office. The two try to find a way in,
You open doors like my grandmother.
but end up having to fight another round of the firm's goons. But once they've been dealt with, Derek kicks in Lester's door to have their little chat. He tries to reason with them,
The firm fired you. Don't nail gun the messenger.
but does not exactly get the result he's looking for. And because they have, shall we say, a flair for the dramatic, Derek and Melanie make a cute little home video to send to the Nine.
We're witnessing a model citizen here, transformed into a brutal, bloodthirsty,
killing machine at the blink of an infected eye.
discuss.
See you soon, f***ers.
The Reaper's keycard doesn't have high enough clearance to get to the executive suite, so next on the list is Kara, the siren. By now, Towers has convinced her to ditch her keycard in exchange for a massive promotion.
I promise you, I will do everything in my power to ensure he doesn't get to you.
But if he does, you must protect those above you.
Fuck those above me.
I'll give you the raise you always wanted.
Fuck your raise.
I'll make you partner.
Fuck you. Deal.
But instead of throwing it out the window or destroying it, she gives it to her assistant to hide in case she needs to use it as a bargaining chip later. Our two heroes camp out by the elevator, hoping to ambush the siren if she tries to leave. And to pass time while they wait, the two discuss their tastes in music.
Top 3 bands. Go.
All right. Motorhead,
Oh.
DRI, and early Anthrax. That'll tell I fucking puke.
All right. Okay. That's not what I expected, but fine choices.
What did you expect? The Dave Matthews Band?
Dave Matthews Band is a good band. Have you ever heard them live?
I would rather chew glass.
Are you serious? Just because they're popular doesn't mean that they're bad at music. I think it's actually that people think it's more popular to dislike them, so they're just trying to be cool. It's bullshit.
All right, fine. I'll go see him at Burning Man.
All right, make fun all you want, but if we ever get out of here, I'm gonna get us tickets, and I'm gonna take you there, and I'm gonna turn you on to some great musicianship.
You're gonna turn me on?
Turn you
Before or
on,
after
yes.
we go out to buy Birkenstocks?
Off.
Do you wear them with socks? I bet you do.
And again, this brings us back to the idea of art being a representation of humanity. It is no mistake that this conversation about music gives us more insight into Melanie's true, uninfected personality than any other part of the movie, including when she wasn't even infected yet. She and Derek share in that bit of humanity together, and they're able to bond over something besides their mutual desire for violence. It's a really great character moment that probably would not mean nearly as much in any other movie. But here, Derek is being reminded of his own humanity by sharing in someone else's. Now, they decide they can't wait any longer because they only have a set amount of time before the neutralizer kicks in, the quarantine lifts, symptoms stop, and they are once again legally liable for their actions. They head towards Kara's office, but she's gathered a group of lackeys to hopefully fend them off. It does not work. Once they have her cornered, she offers up her level 3 keycard in exchange for leaving unharmed. Our heroes reluctantly agree, and the siren calls in her assistant, who apparently fried the keycard in the microwave. Towers knew she would never give up her only bargaining chip for survival, because he knows that anybody who's ever achieved real success within the firm did so by screwing other people over. Consequences of only rewarding people who know how to play the game, I guess. So Towers offered Meg, Kara's assistant, a massive promotion in exchange for destroying the card entirely. The siren is understandably furious about being out backstabbed, so she tries to attack Meg, but Meg is able to gain the upper hand, leaving Kara. Let's just say her silver tongue is not going to get her out of this one. Hey, did you know I have a Patreon and I'm also bad at segues? So I recently left my own corporate job because I was being heavily exploited, and that's what inspired this video in the first place. My Patreon has a free tier, which I encourage everybody to join so that you can get updates and vote on subject matter for videos. But what I want to know as a creator is what I can do to encourage you to upgrade to a paid membership. As of right now, paid perks include vlogs and a private Discord server, and some tiers actually get early access to the music that my band produces before it's actually published. But those ideas came from me, and I want to know what you want. You can leave suggestions in the comments, or if you join as a free member, there are posts on the Patreon that you can respond to. And the tiers only range from $1 to $5 because I'm genuinely not trying to squeeze y'all. I'm just really trying to make YouTube work so I never, ever, ever have to go back to the corporate world again. I'm still working on procuring sponsors, and I'm really close to being monetized through YouTube's system. I'm just also very new at this and still trying to get my feet under me. It's scary to try and earn money through creative endeavors, but the last few weeks of my life are quite literally the happiest I've ever been. So for this to be sustainable, I do need to ask for support. But what I also ask is that you let me earn it. This is not throw money at me so I can be famous now, please. I want to work for any money that I earn, so please tell me how. I work for you. Okay, last thing. I actually have a live show coming up October 20th in DFW. My band will be playing songs from our first EP as well as a couple covers. So I'm adding links in the description for tickets to the show, where to find our EP, the Patreon, and all my other socials. Thank you for your patience. Back to the video. Without the key card, our heroes don't have access to the penthouse, so they sit for a minute to rest and regroup. This of course leads to sex because they're both hot straight people in the same general vicinity in an R-rated movie. After their little roll in the hay, Derek realizes there might be another way to get upstairs. They go down to meet Ray, the only IT guy for the entire firm, who's actually played by the director Joe Lynch. Ray also hates the executives because, again, only IT guy. So he agrees to send malware to Irene Smythe, who, again, is responsible for Melanie's foreclosure. She downloads the file, which immediately wipes her hard drive. They upload the only copy onto an external drive and then call Irene to invite her downstairs for a hostage exchange. A hard drive worth millions of dollars to the firm for an all-access keycard. Towers advises her against accepting, but she explains that she's already hidden the bull's gun in the room, with the intention of straight up shooting them and walking away with both the hard drive and the key.
Are you, ready for this? Just a little pro tip. Employees' IQs at this firm are inversely proportionate to their salaries, so it's probably not a good idea to try to outsmart someone with a smaller paycheck.
Okay, but like, let him cook. Irene pushes her luck by taunting the people holding both her hard drive and a gun, but lucky for her, only the hard drive suffers for it. The bull shows up and once again beats the living shit out of Derek, but he's able to gain the upper hand with one of the most creative finishing moves I've ever seen. Irene, in an attempt to save her own life, reveals that the keycard will only work if they have a code. She offers to give Derek that code in exchange for letting her go and allowing her to take revenge on Melanie for the hard drive. He refuses at first, but does end up incapacitating her and tying her to a chair. He leaves his incredulous new lover with a kiss and goes to the elevator with Irene, who inputs the passcode. But just before the doors close, he reveals that he removed the screws that were holding Melanie's chair together. And we get to see that when he kissed her, he placed one of the screws in her mouth, silently communicating that the structural integrity of that chair was shot. And sure enough, we see Melanie round the corner and attack Irene just as the elevator leaves for the penthouse. At the top, Towers and the Nine greet Derek with a round of applause and a honeypot promotion to partner. He doesn't exactly have to give it a ton of thought before he declines. With Towers gone, Derek pleads his case to the Nine. They're still scared shitless, so they once again offer him the role of partner. And this time he accepts, but only long enough to void Melanie's impending foreclosure. Fast forward a little bit, we see that all of the paintings we've seen throughout the movie were done after Derek left, presumably as a way of processing what he went through. We see that he and Melanie are still together, painting alongside one another. She helped him reconnect with his humanity, and now they get to go through life together, fully embracing it, far away from the malignant toxicity that brought them together in the first place. Now, to clarify, the movie doesn't think that working in the corporate world makes you inherently a bad person. It's saying that corporate America rewards terrible people for being terrible and encourages non-terrible people to leave their empathy at the door. We tell ourselves that we're not the ones responsible, we're just doing our jobs. But no one raindrop thinks it caused the flood. No singular individual can be blamed for every bit of wrongdoing. Most people blame their superiors for giving the orders, except for the executives, who either blame the lower level employees carrying out those orders or just have stopped caring altogether. So what do we actually do about this? How do we change the system that rewards only those who claw their way to the top at the expense of everyone else? I don't know, and I don't think the movie does either. But on an individual level, Mayhem is inviting you to reconnect with your humanity and really consider how your actions can either contribute to or help mitigate harm. And maybe, if you're helping to contribute to the flood, you also have a responsibility to help rebuild. Thank you so much for watching. This has been so fun. Just as a reminder, I'm putting a whole bunch of important links in the description. Next Monday, October 14th, I'm actually going to be doing a completely different type of video. It's not going to be a media analysis at all. It's actually going to be an ASL video. I'm going to be breaking down a bunch of queer signs and then explaining their etymology and history. I'm super excited about it, so I hope y'all stick around. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm going to go brush my hair and wash my face. Love y'all so much. Bye.